Think about the greatest sports teams of all time. The Chicago Bulls in the 90s, the Golden State Warriors, the New England Patriots. These teams didn't win by accident. Sure, they had great players, but they also had clear strategies, a system for success, and a way to work together that gave them an edge to be the best. Now, imagine if you could bring that same level of strategy into your marriage. What if there were proven ways to create more connection, trust, and intimacy? A playbook of strategies that make relationships thrive. Well, a couple of episodes ago, we talked about the 5 losing strategies, things people do in relationships that actually make things worse. But knowing what not to do isn't enough. You need to know what to do instead. That's what today's episode is all about. 5 winning strategies that will help you and your wife feel more connected, build trust, and have fewer fights. Let's jump in. Welcome to Better Husband, the podcast that helps you answer the question, how can I be a better husband? I'm Angelo Santiago, a men's marriage and relationship coach, and every week I bring you simple, practical insights to help you improve your marriage and be the best partner you can be. Now, when my marriage was on the rocks, the first thing I looked at was what was I doing that made things worse? I had to be honest with myself and recognize my own losing strategies. I focused on those, learned to regulate my nervous system so I wouldn't shut down when we had arguments, and then worked hard to change the way I reacted in tough moments. I started listening more, taking responsibility for my part, and making sure I wasn't making things worse. All of that helped. It stopped the bleeding. Things got better. And my wife and I weren't fighting as much. We had more peace, and I felt like we had stabilized. But then I started wondering, how could I actually help create an amazing marriage instead of just settling for a good one? That's where the 5 winning strategies came in. Once I started using these, my marriage went from good to great. And I'm not exaggerating. These are the secret relational codes that nobody ever taught us. They're simple and you can use them every day. And the key is to practice them often until they become a natural part of your life. And your wife will love you for it, and you will love your marriage because of it. Now, I can't emphasize enough how important these are. And if you have questions at the end, send me an email at angelo@angelosantiago.com, and you can also find that in the show notes as well. Now, before we get into the 5 winning strategies, let's quickly review the 5 losing strategies we talked about in episode number 18. If you missed that one, go back and listen after you finish this episode. Now, all of these strategies were developed by Terry Real and his work in relational life therapy, which is the foundation of my marriage and relationship coaching. Now, the 5 losing strategies are, number 1, being right, trying to win an argument instead of understanding your wife. Number 2 is controlling, trying to make things go your way instead of working together. Number 3, unbridled self-expression, saying whatever you feel without thinking about how it affects your wife. Number 4, retaliation, hurting back when you feel hurt. And number 5, withdrawal, shutting down instead of staying engaged. Now, if any of these sound familiar, you're not alone. But simply avoiding bad habits isn't enough to build a great marriage. You also need to be intentional about what you should be doing every day to create real connection, trust, and intimacy. And the 5 winning strategies we're talking about today aren't just fixes for problems. They're the habits and mindsets that keep great marriages strong. So here they are. Winning strategy number 1, shift from complaint to request. One of the biggest mistakes couples make is complaining about what they're not getting instead of asking for what they need. Complaints focus on what's wrong, and they often come across as criticism, which often leads to defensiveness. The problem is, complaining never actually gets you what you want. It just creates frustration for everybody. Requests, on the other hand, focus on how to make things better. Instead of saying, you never help around the house, complaint, try being specific about what you need moving forward without blaming or talking about what you're not getting. One of the best ways to frame a request is by saying, as a favor to me, would you be willing to? This makes it clear that You're asking, not demanding, and it gives your wife the choice to say yes or no. For example, I'm feeling a bit overloaded with all the household chores. As a favor to me, would you be willing to take care of the dishes after dinner so I have time to take out the trash and get the kids ready for bed? When you focus on the current situation and your future needs instead of past issues or mistakes and make your request clear and reasonable, you set the stage for real teamwork instead of conflict. Now, winning strategy number 2 is speaking out with love and savvy. Being honest is important, but how you say things makes a big difference. If you say things in a harsh or blaming way, your wife will likely get defensive. Instead, speak with care. A great tool for this is the feedback wheel. This tool helps you express your thoughts and feelings in a way that makes it easier for your wife to hear and understand you. Instead of reacting emotionally or blaming, it helps you slow down and communicate clearly. Before I share the steps, the feedback wheel is one of the 3 tools I share in my Better Husband Toolkit. If you want a downloadable version of this and 2 more skills that will make you a better husband, go to betterhusbandtoolkit.com. Now here are the steps. Number 1, what I saw or heard. And here you stick to the facts. Now number 2, what I made up about it. This is where you get to share what you assumed and the story you made up. Number 3, how I felt about it, and you get to express your emotions clearly. And number 4, what I'd like. And this is where you ask for what you need. Now, it's important to keep this short and sweet. 1 sentence for each step is ideal. Also, make a specific request for what you need, not generalizations about how things should be. Now, here's an example. Instead of, you never listen to me, try 1. Yesterday, when I was talking, I noticed you were on the phone. 2, the story I made up about it is that you weren't interested in what I had to say and that you don't really care about me or what I do all day. Number 3, I felt sad, alone, hurt, and angry. Number 4, I'd love it if we can make it a habit to set 15 minutes aside at the end of each day to really share and listen to each other without distractions. As a favor to me, would you be willing to do that? The key here is to let go of trying to control her response. Remember that controlling is one of the 5 losing strategies. You can't force her to react a certain way, but you can speak in a way that makes it easier for her to hear what you're asking for. Now, winning strategy number 3, responding with generosity. Instead of reacting defensively, listen to understand and give as much as possible. Real quick, before we get back to the show, if you're like me and you're a busy husband with a lot on your plate, sometimes you hear something on this podcast, an idea or a specific practice or a suggestion, and you have every intention of doing the thing that you just heard. But life gets busy and sometimes you forget. Well, that's why I created the Better Husband Toolkit. This is a short, concise, downloadable cheat sheet with 3 of the most important relational skills I believe every husband should know and have in their tool belt in order to improve their marriage. If you're asking yourself, how can I be a better husband today? Go to betterhusbandtoolkit.com and download the short document. And if you have any questions, you can email me. I'd be happy to offer you some more support. Again, go to betterhusbandtoolkit.com or click the link in the show notes and get your toolkit today. Now back to the show. Be of service to your wife. Being generous in a conversation means noticing what you can agree with from what is being said. And it's about giving as much as you can for what is being asked for and showing your wife that you care. If your wife says, I feel like you don't make time for me, the defensive response might be, that's not true. I took you out on a dinner last week and we have another date next month. Plus, I've been swamped with work and I'm taking the kids to all their activities. Now, a generous response sounds like, I hear you. You feel like we're not spending enough time together. I don't want you to feel that way. I have some ideas of how we can fix this, but I'd love to hear more from you. What do you need moving forward? When you respond with generosity instead of defensiveness, your wife will feel heard and problems will be easier to solve. Now, if she's asking for a lot of things, give her as much as you can and lead with the things you are willing to do, not the things you won't do. Lead with generosity. Now, winning strategy number 4, empowering each other. A great marriage is a partnership where both people feel supported. This means noticing and appreciating what your wife does, asking what you can do to make things easier for her, and creating a team mindset for each other. Empowering each other is about lifting each other up and recognizing the good. Imagine a husband noticing how much effort his wife puts into planning family activities. Instead of waiting until she feels overwhelmed, he steps in and says, I really appreciate everything you do to bring so much fun for our family and keep our schedule organized. It makes a big difference for our family. Let me know how I can make it easier for you. Or imagine a wife who sees how hard her husband works and says, I see how much you do for us, and I love that about you. How can I support you so you don't have to carry everything on your own? Empowering each other means noticing and appreciating the effort your partner puts in and offering support before it's needed. It's about being a team and making sure your partner knows that they're not alone. And finally, winning strategy number 5, cherishing what you have. It's easy to focus on what's missing in your marriage, but happiness comes from appreciating what's already good. Cherishing means noticing the good things about your wife and your relationship. It's about giving compliments regularly and putting effort into your marriage instead of taking it for granted. Cherishing what you have is about appreciating your partner and your relationship every day. It's about noticing the little things and expressing gratitude for them. For example, instead of waiting for a big occasion, take a moment to say, I love how you always make me laugh. It makes my day better. Or, I really appreciate how thoughtful you are. It means a lot to me. When you cherish your partner, you create an atmosphere of love and appreciation. Small, sincere moments of gratitude can strengthen your marriage more than grand gestures ever could. So, let's go over the 5 winning strategies one more time and see how you can incorporate them into your daily life in your marriage. Number 1, shift from complaint to request. Number 2, speak with love and savvy. Number 3, respond with generosity. Number 4, empower each other. And number 5, cherish what you have. And again, if you missed episode 18 on the 5 losing strategies, I highly recommend listening to it. Understanding what doesn't work in relationships is just as important about learning what does. That episode will help you recognize patterns that keep you stuck so you can make most of today's strategies. I highly, highly recommend checking it out to get the full picture of what we're working to replace. So, if you're serious about making real changes in your marriage, I want to help. Go to angelosantiago.com to book a one-on-one coaching session where we can work through specific challenges and create a plan for a stronger, more connected marriage for you. Thanks for being here. I'm Angelo Santiago, and I'll see you next time. Thank you so much for listening. Before you go, I have a quick request. If you've ever gotten any value from the show and you want the show to continue to grow, to access bigger and more knowledgeable guests, and to keep providing you with more ways that you can be a better husband in your marriage, simply leave a rating and a review if you're listening on Apple or Spotify. It only takes a few seconds, and those reviews go a long way in attracting more experts and bigger guests to the show. So if you're feeling up to it, as a favor to me, I'd love to see a rating and a review from you. Thank you so much for being a listener and all your support.